Big up Spurs fans near and far with your boy Deji Spurs, and I'm back. And I think you've noticed in the location that after the win against West Ham, I thought I'd just spruce up a bit and wear a shirt for this one, because big up, I've got my good friend Alan in the building. And those of you who will remember Alan will remember that it was this time last year, Alan and we caught up. And I remember like it was yesterday, because I was in downtown Paris. I was doing s'il vous plaît, oui monsieur at the time. I was with Alan. So it's so good because Alan for me is one of the realists. He gonna give us the lows on what's going on at Crystal Palace. And excuse the pun, it really is low at the moment, and it's no banter. But Alan, how are you at the moment, my good friend?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. In terms of Palace, I've been a lot better, but I'm all right. You know, otherwise, I'm all right.
Yeah, welcome. And, you know, thank you for accepting the invitation in the location. And look, there's a lot happening at the moment. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you over, Alan, is you said something on the show last season. You said if Eze came back from fitness, Elise came back from fitness, you know, Palace were as good as anyone and they can go on a run. And true to word, as soon as Elise and Eze came back, you slapped up Liverpool at their gaff. You went on to slap up Aston Villa. And that's why I was so annoyed by Spurs. I was annoyed because I knew that based on the information you had given me, Tottenham had every chance to get Champions League football. And to say, for want of a better word, we fluffed our lines at the time. For better or for worse, I think we're going to find out this season. Let me just big up everyone locked in, locked on. Make sure you smash a like. I just want to find out from you. Let's quickly talk about last season. What happened? Was it simply a Elise factor? And then I want us to get into this season and talk about what's happened with Glasner and all the stuff that's been happening at your club. So the end of last season, Alan, we saw you go on a run. In fact, I was calling Mateta, Eze, and Elise the Three Musketeers. And I think I mentioned to you that over the summer, Tottenham would do well to bring in all three players. And
you wanted all three. I remember you saying,
170 mil for all three players. So are they that good? Is Elise that big a miss? I don't know. Tell us what happened last season.
To be honest, Deji, I'm completely, I'm a bit confused by it all because of what's happened this season. But last season, we started playing well under Glasner. His style of play, very direct, very energetic, very higher press, totally different from how we played under Hodgson. He revolutionised what we were doing and played a different system, three at the back, wing backs, attacking Tyrick Mitchell suddenly higher up the pitch, Munoz brought in. And we suddenly looked dangerous, lots of balls into the box, but we didn't get results for the first 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we had a little bit of luck against Liverpool. We beat them 1-0. We had to ride our luck a little bit, as you do. And it was at Anfield. You're always going to have to ride your luck a little bit at Anfield to win. And we beat them, and then we went on that run. And we also slapped up United, and we beat, we won 6 out of 7, and we ended up 10th, and we were playing such crisp, energetic, the interchange between those three in particular, but also Wharton just popping balls into Elise, Eze, the quick interchange between those two and Mateta. It was fantastic. So I'd never known it quite as good in a way in terms of pure quality of play as a Palace fan. Now I know certainly that Aston Villa game when we beat them 5-0, they were on the, do you know what I mean? They were on the sun lounges. It was the end of the season. They'd qualified for the Champions League. So you've got to take some of those results with a pinch of salt. But we were good. We were properly good. And this is why it's so perplexing that we are so bad. Well, not so bad because we're not actually playing that badly, but we cannot get a result. And the thing for me at the moment, if we're now getting onto this season, is that we've lost confidence. Elise is a massive miss. But if you think about it, we've only lost Elise and Joachim Andersen, right? And for Joachim Andersen, we've brought in Trevor Chalobah, and Maxence Lacroix, yeah, who played under Glasner for Frankfurt and of Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
And Lacroix looks to me like he could be like a properly. He's got a bit of the Van der Vens about him. He's very quick. He's very strong.
Yeah.
And he could be a great central defender. But at the moment, they're not all quite gelling.
Yeah.
We massively miss Elise, but we've brought in Daichi Kamada.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of European.
From Frankfurt, innit? Was he from Frankfurt?
He was from Frankfurt as well. He played under. Well, not as well because he played. So when Glasner was at Wolfsburg, he played with Lacroix. When he was at Frankfurt, he played with Kamada. And but Kamada had gone to Lazio, and we got him off. We bought him from Lazio. We got him on a free actually from Lazio. But Kamada's not really settled in. Wharton's injured. We bought Nketiah. I think Nketiah. I've got a lot of time for Nketiah. I think he's a great player, but he's not quite fitting into our system. And he started off almost playing Nketiah like for Elise.
Yeah.
And he's a totally different player.
Yeah.
So he's now playing him through the middle instead of Mateta. So Mateta's not always starting. It's got a bit of a mess at the moment. And look, against Forest on Monday, we were the better side in the first half. And then again, we couldn't score and we lost confidence. So we can't, I do think we're one result away from getting on a run though. I do think we're not playing badly and we're one result away and a bit of confidence away from going on a run. I can't promise a run like next season, like last season, but some sort of a run against you guys. I can't see it happening.
And don't worry, we're going to get into that, Alan, because you know when you break it down like that, it doesn't seem so bad. Because one of the things I was thinking is maybe you didn't replace the outgoing talent. I rate Anderson highly. I think he's a top defender, and actually. Spurs fans won't forgive me for saying this. I'd rather Anderson as our right centre back than Romero. And I know it sounds like an outlandish statement, but he is a top defender, concentration in the location. I just would be more comfortable with an Anderson at the back. Romero's lapses in concentration 3 times this season has cost us games. And I know that there's more to come from him. But Nketiah is got nothing on Elise. And for me, where I think the mistakes happened is when you bring in, I think you got him, is it 60 mil you paid for? How much did you pay for Nketiah?
No, we paid 30 for Nketiah. We sold Elise for 55. Well, actually, they say 50 plus add-ons, but it'll rise to about 60 because he's playing every week for Bayern Munich and they're banging in goals. So he's a generational talent, Elise. He's right up there.
Yeah.
And will continue to be. And Nketiah but also Nketiah is a totally different type of player.
Yeah.
But so, 30 mil, we paid 30 mil for him.
30 mil, so it's not terrible, but like you said, Elise is a generational talent and what he was able to do and that kind of chemistry that he had with Eze and Mateta. It just worked and maybe, like you said, they need time to settle. The problem is you're 8 games into the season. And I agree with you. I thought you were pretty unlucky against Liverpool. I mean, people in the chat know that I troll Arsenal. I think Arsenal have been absolute rubbish this season, in my opinion. People are getting more, caught up about the results. And I was one of the few people who wasn't surprised that Arsenal was going to get slapped up by Bournemouth over the weekend. Artillero, who is sitting there in the chat, with the fan blowing at his forehead, bashing away at the keyboard. He won't admit. But I've been saying for a long time that Arsenal were going to get absolutely done out here by Bournemouth, and they did. You guys don't look that bad. However, 3 draws, 5 defeats. Whether we like it or not, and it's banter aside, I mean, I was saying with 3 defeats in 7 for Spurs, that was relegation fodder. It is looking quite concerning at the moment.
It's concerning, but look, but the league, all too well that the Premier League, it operates on everybody overreacts all the time, and I understand, it is all sort of fast moving and it's got to be now and we need something better now and blah blah blah. But you look at Bournemouth last year, right? They could have sacked Iriola.
Yeah.
If that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
They could have sacked him. They had a terrible start last season, similar to us. And he turned it round after about 9 or 10 games. They ended up mid-table. They looked like a good side, Bournemouth, and he's a good manager because they showed a little bit of patience. And there's a time to show patience. And I do think Glasner's earned, he's earned a bit of time because of that run at the end of last season.
Yeah.
The board know what he's capable of. I'm not one to overreact too quickly. I thought Vieira was harshly dealt with, to be honest. I thought they slightly overreacted there, bringing Hodgson back. So I'm wary of us overreacting too quick. Yeah. I'm aware also, there's a danger that if you don't react, you're suddenly in a relegation battle and you could go down. But there's enough poor sides in the league for us to be all right, even if we changed at Christmas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree. The only thing is, literally hot off the press, it's just come in, is that they're saying if Glasner is sacked, you're linked with Graham Potter, David Moyes, and Gareth Southgate. Those are the potential candidates. It'll be funny. I just want to get your view in that. That's hot off the press right now, literally. Those are who would... I mean, I think it would be unfair. I think he deserves time. I like his style of play. I actually would go as far as to say he hasn't got enough... Almost similar to Postecoglou in a way. He needs time to embed his style of play. He came in towards the end of last season. People are acting like he was there from the beginning. No, he wasn't.
No, exactly. But the weird thing is, Dej, that he embedded his style of play, and now it's gone backwards. That's the sort of the confusing thing for us Palace fans. It's like, how can you go from being that good? And like I said, we're not even that bad, but we just got we cannot put the ball in the back of the net. How can you, that change of form is confusing.
But do you think
slightly worrying?
Do you think the two players make a difference then? Maybe that Lacroix hasn't quite got the je ne sais quoi, and Nketiah just isn't got, because I almost feel like with Palace, and I've been saying this, I love Palace, Alan, I love Palace, but the sort of football team that you are, you need players that can carry the club in order for you to be equal. So what do I mean by that? You needed a Zaha. Zaha could almost win games on his own. Eze's kind of that type of player, but what you had last season was you had two of them. Where you used to having one, you had Elise and you had Eze, and it was a complete disaster because if you mark one, the other one's free, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And Eze not being quite on form this season by his own standards. I think I saw a stat that it's like he scored a goal and he's got no assists so far.
I know. And he's blowing hot and cold, but he's been unlucky. Do you remember that free kick?
Yeah.
Against Brentford.
Yeah.
Where, it was a
goal.
It was genius, and it was a goal. But the referee blew his whistle too early, and therefore it couldn't be VAR reviewed because there was no foul. I mean, it's that sort of luck that would have got him going, and he has blown hot and cold this season, and his finishing hasn't been as good as it was. Yeah. But again, he was unlucky on Monday night. He hit a fantastic shot, and Sells made an outrageous save.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The combination of the two of them caused teams all sorts of problems, and it gave all sorts of problems. And it gave each other more space because people were doubling up on Elise and then gave Eze space, or vice versa. And it. 100%. We've also got the issue Adam Wharton's injured, and Adam Wharton's not been quite as good this season.
Yeah,
because him just getting the ball to those players early was a big part of our success at the end of last season.
Quickly, and I want to ask this question before we move on briefly to Spurs, and then we'll look at the weekend and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think Adam Wharton was showing a little bit too much love? And what I mean by that, I personally, for me, I was pretty pissed off that he was able to get into the side ahead of Maddison over the summer, and I also felt that he hasn't really got a kind of experience or a CV to warrant a space in the England team. That's just my own opinion. I do understand and appreciate we want to bring in the next generation, the younger talent into the fold. The sooner they get in, the more they're settled in that environment, and it bodes well for the future things that we're doing with Angel Gomez and such like. But I do think he was just thrust into the limelight from nowhere. And do you think that also had a part to play with this lack of form? Because, when you when you're in the England team, you're literally saying you've arrived.
Totally.
You're international. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't think he'd done enough to warrant that.
I agree. Look, as a Palace fan, you're always delighted to see your players recognised, and and he was fantastic at the end of last season. But he's 19 years old. He had a few good games. Do you know what I mean? That's not enough to displace players like Maddison and Grealish, I don't think, from the England squad. So, I suppose England were lacking players in that position. So maybe that's why he got the nod early. But he was never really going to feature, and he didn't feature. And it was the hype. There's a lot of hype, and I think that pressure hasn't done him any favours for this season. Time will tell how good he really is. I do think he's quality. I think he'll come back. But he hasn't had a great start to the season, and but apparently he's had this niggling groin injury that he's been playing through, and now they're resting him. They rested him Monday night. So that's probably the reason he hasn't been hitting the heights of last season. But I do think there was a bit too much hype. And I'll tell you the other thing, Dej, while we're on this, is the hype around Gay as well hasn't helped us. Because that was ridiculous. The whole thing with Newcastle and it rumbled on and on and on, and then Anderson leaving, and it caused so much disruption in that back three.
Yeah,
it's like that back three is still settling down. And to your point, Lacroix's only played 6 games or something. He came late. He's only played 5 or 6 games. He's still settling down.
Yeah.
And I think when they get that back three of Gay, Lacroix and Chalobah settled, that will be a quality defensive kind of unit.
Yeah.
But they're not settled yet.
Yeah.
And also, it was like it's Henderson as well. Do you know what? If I'm honest, I would have kept Johnson over Henderson. I think Henderson's overrated. And I think that mistake against Forest, he makes these mistakes. Johnson, I always felt more secure with Johnston.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my own thought.
The thing with Henderson, I hear you. He is a good shot stopper and he can do some crazy stuff. But he has Hugo Lloris in him where he just let in something cheap and stupid. And you just think, that's why. Because I think Henderson's got all the minerals to be a top 6 goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But at lapse in concentration, which is the we talk about fine margins. That's it.
That is it. This league at the moment is so much about fine margins. You can be, like I said, with Palace, I can see a couple of things clicking into place and we'll beat sides. And at the moment it's not. And it is fine margins.
Yeah, 100%. But Al, I just want to just briefly get onto our club and, Tottenham. And, we know a few West Ham fans who I'll be trolling tomorrow, definitely for sure, down in the Southwest. But wanting to know your views on Spurs. For me, someone asked me the question yesterday, and the reason why I asked you this because you always give me some sort of level-headed perspective, and I'm always walk away and I think differently about my team and I review, and I want to just bring you up to speed in how I've been thinking. I think Tottenham have played the best football in the league, us and Liverpool, by a hand mile. Yeah, the only thing that's happened with Spurs is we've just not had the results that, to match our play. I think we completely slapped up Newcastle, lost the game. From my perspective, we slapped up Arsenal. Arsenal fans will say that they sat back. I say they sat back because they knew they couldn't go toe-to-toe with my club. But also that it was, but for a Gabriel header, really, Tottenham should have got a draw out of that game. The Brighton game, we were poor. I'm not going to lie to you. It was poor management from Postecoglou. And anyway, we resulted in having 3 defeats in 7. Now, I like Postecoglou ball. I love it. I prefer it to Conte ball. I can prefer it to Mourinho ball. And for me, this season, it's about progression. Progression for me is Champions League football because we finished 5th. So it has to be Champions League football. How we acquire it, I don't give a damn. Whether it's the Europa League or via the Prem. Although, for me personally, I think we'd be playing Russian roulette if we were to put all of our eggs in the European basket and then not to win it. then I'd be truly pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
So I've now said I need Postecoglou to go on a 10-game winning run, partly because we've lost too many games already from my perspective, if we want to be mounting a serious challenge for top 4 this season. And so I've asked Postecoglou, but I'm indifferent. I love the ball, but I can't say that we've had a good start to the season. But I will say I do think Tottenham has the potential to finish third. That was my prediction for Spurs this year. And I'm not going to lie to you, everywhere people have looked at me like I'm a madman, and people think I'm off my rocker. I equally look at them and think that they're off their rocker. I want to get your perspective from an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Have you been impressed by Spurs? What's your prediction for Spurs based on what you've seen so far? And has there been overreaction? A lot of Spurs fans have been calling for Postecoglou's head already. And why not? You know what I'm saying? In your hair, you're willing to give Glasner time because you've seen what he can do.
Yeah.
I think most Spurs fans, we can see what Postecoglou can do, but I guess we want more.
Yeah, and then look, every fan wants more, and you're right to want more. But I do think patience is an underrated quality in the Premier League, and I do think, look, I love the way you play under Postecoglou. I love Ange Ball, but see, my fear, if I were a Spurs fan, my one fear, the one thing that like raised a bit of an alarm for me at the end of last season or towards the end of last season is when he said something like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, what's my plan B? My plan B is to do plan A better.
Yeah.
That worries me because as a Premier League manager, you've got to be able to adapt. And as much as it's quite ugly to watch sometimes,
yeah,
you know, you've got to give it to Arteta that he goes, listen, we can't cope with Spurs' attacking. We're going to sit back and we're going to hit them on the break, and we're going to he's shown ways to adapt. Pep adapts. The great manager, I'm not putting Arteta in Pep's category, but the great managers adapt, and that's my one fear about Postecoglou is that will he adapt? Can he? And that's the thing against Brighton. He should have held on to that lead.
Yeah.
But he's not willing to adapt. And that is my one fear about him. Can he adapt? I think attacking-wise, you are undoubtedly a top 4 team. I think defensively, because of his style of football, you're a top 8 team. And that's the thing. Can you be that effective attacking-wise and shore up a bit at the back against the really good sides? I think you'll, you blow sides like West Ham away. I don't hold out. Well, we'll get onto the game at the weekend in a bit. But I just worry against the top sides, that high line. But but then I like your centre backs. I think I think Van der Ven. I think, and you've got his pace.
Yeah.
To cope with playing such a high line. But I do slightly worry that it is such a one style of play that great managers that you're playing against will go, right, this is what we do against Spurs, because we know they're going to do it. They won't adapt. They're going to do that. So we just do this.
Yeah.
And that's my fear. I think Ange will make subtle changes and will do things slightly differently against different clubs. But I just worry that he's not willing to sort of go, you know what, we're going to sit back for 20 minutes now. And I know we've done this on the training ground, and we can do this. And then we'll hit them really quick on the break. He wants to play possession based. He wants to press high up the pitch. He wants to have a high line always at all times. And I just don't know if that's sustainable.
No, I totally agree. And, I said if we lost to West Ham, I would want Postecoglou out for that fact. That's not saying I don't like the manager. That's not saying I don't love the style of play. But management of games, and when you watch the Brighton game, we didn't make a change until the 80th minute. Yeah. We have lost control of the whole game. Do you know what I'm saying? Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can see we've completely lost the ball. And they didn't make a change until the 80th minute. By which time it's too late. The only positive thing that I would say is that I saw something different. I'm hoping we will see this weekend. Against West Ham, he hooked Madders off at half-time. Now, Madders, by his standards, had a stinker, but it weren't that bad, if I'm being brutally honest. It wasn't terrible. But he wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. It was just he was indifferent in the game. But he made a bold move, opposite to the Brighton game where we had no changes until the 80th minute. Madders didn't start the second half. Pape Sarr comes on, game set him at 7 minutes. We destroy West Ham, and it's done. And that's all I was calling out for. And what I was saying is, if he's not willing to make certain changes at certain times, like you said, just play this high line. Maybe there's a 10-minute rough patch, and we might have to sit deep for 10 minutes just so that the players can recalibrate. Then I'm not sure I want him at my club, because that is a recipe for a disaster in the long run. But if he's happy to do adaptation in the location, which means that sometimes you have to finesse and even change the personnel depending on what you see, because he rightfully so, he didn't start Bentancur against West Ham, because West Ham are, for want of a better word, they are barbarians. You know, these are wrestlers playing football. So you need your henchmen out on the pitch to kind of do that game, that run, that roughshod. So he did that, and I'm hoping against you guys he does that on the weekend. And then I'll give him all the time that he needs. But if he's not willing to adapt and he's going to play this high, like people talk about the high line. Against Arsenal, we weren't done by the high line. We was done by
set piece.
Newcastle, you can say that for me, I say it was a Romero lapse in concentration. What we did to Manchester United was nothing short of breathtaking, in my honest opinion. And everyone else, we've played them off the park. So people don't get the ball enough to hurt us anyway. That's the way that we play, which I get. That's what he's doing. He's saying, you know what, we're going to run you ragged so that by the time you do get the ball, you're shattered. That's the game plan. It's just that the game plan didn't work against Brighton. So let's see. I have Spurs. If we were to finish 8th, because you said top 8, 8th is a disgrace, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think but I'm saying your top 8 as a defensive side and your top 4 as an attacking side. So I think you're going to finish anywhere between 4th and 8th, or 3rd and 8th, right? And I think, depending on, it's difficult for me to say, and I haven't seen quite as much of Spurs this season as so far yet. I haven't seen enough to fully. You'll know a lot better than me. I think he's going to be willing to make changes. It wouldn't worry me, because he normally seems brave in terms of making changes to personnel. Yeah, it's just that he doesn't make changes to system, particularly, or he'll make little tweaks, but he's not going to make changes. Yeah, and time will tell whether, like you say, that's that high energy. We're gonna press you. We're gonna run you ragged. So when you do get the ball, you're gonna have nothing left to attack. Whether that works, defensively, and whether you're attacking wise, you score enough goals, because you always feel with Spurs is there's a chance you're gonna nick a goal or two. 100%. But the trouble is that they might score 3 or 4. Is what you think? Do you know what I mean?
100%. That's what happened against West Ham. I mean, Poro left Kudus free at last, free at yards, goddamn free at last. I mean, he was so free. Even I could have bloody scored that goal. Didn't have to do much. Just be in the right position. No one was there. He had a free shot on goal. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Alan. So look, it's been a fantastic conversation. I knew it would be, and I want to move to this weekend's game quickly. And then predictions before we wrap up. And big up to everyone locked in, locked on. It's a lunchtime special. You're here with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining in, tuning in. I'm not even bothering about the Europa League game against Outsmar. I will be doing a watch along for that. But because I already think it's light work, it's already in the bag, so no need for the preview. The preview has to be Palace, because I actually think they're a dodgy team. Alan, how are you feeling about the weekend? How are you likely to shape up? And based on injuries and what you think, because he said he's going to change it. And I had a friend of mine, I did his show the other day. His name is D, and his channel is called Back of the Nest. He's a Palace fan. And he was arguing that you should just have a back three. No, he's arguing that you should go into a back four rather than a back three. He thinks having a back three is part of the problem. And he said that Glasner came out to say that he's going to have to do some he's going to change something because he was that disappointed with Forest. So do you think this is the game for him to change it up? Should he be changing it up against a big team like my club? I just want to get your view of how you think he should shape up to get the best out of your players, and then we'll do predictions.
It's a difficult one because I have been thinking about that, whether we'd be better off with a back four. I mean, all his success has come playing the system that he's playing at the moment with a back three.
Yeah.
Glasner, and he's had a lot of success, and he's always played that system. Apparently, very occasionally plays a sort of 4-3-3, but he normally plays that 3-4-2-1.
Yeah.
That was when we were at our absolute peak at the end of last season. So I'm wary of just changing it up because we need to change something. Against Spurs, you attack in such numbers. A back four might make sense. Play two sort of play, but I could see us. I was thinking about this the other day. A back four with two in a sort of then play a two sort of pivot, a double pivot, and then three attacking players behind Mateta. And you could maybe play Nketiah out wide, one side, Sarr the other side, and Eze just behind Mateta might be dangerous. Or play Kamada and Eze and Nketiah either side. So I could see us doing something like that. Look, the main problem for Palace at the moment is confidence, and I worry that if we start changing the style of play completely and everything, that'll just cause more problems. I sort of think we need a bit of luck. We need one really good performance and a bit of luck, and things will change. We've been pretty good at home. We haven't been that good at home, to be honest. I mean, look,
it's hard. I can see Alan toiling here, thinking about it. You know what I mean?
I can't see it. Look,
in your face.
The bottom line is I can't see us getting a result against you. I can't see it. I do think defensively that three could be fantastic. Munoz hasn't been good as a right wing back this year, particularly. He was fantastic last year. Anyway, look, I struggle to see. I don't know what Glasner's going to do. I really don't, because I do think he needs to change something. But I think it's more he needs to change how we attack and what he's doing, because I think that back three will be very good and are settling down. And it wasn't their fault, Maybe Chalobah's header wasn't great, but there's no way that goal, Chris Wood should have scored that goal on Monday. It was a Henderson error. That wasn't the defence. And other than that, we defended quite well. They didn't cause us that many problems. But I think it's up front. We need to sort it out. Whether we're going to play Mateta, where we're going to play Nketiah, if we're going to play him at all. How does Kamada fit in? How does Sarr fit in? All that stuff hasn't settled down yet for me.
Yeah, no, fair. So your prediction then, I mean, for me, luckily for us, we haven't had any injuries. And I think, what is exciting is Spurs is a better team with Son in it. Son came back, we got the win, surprise, surprise. And when you talk about clutch players, Son's a clutch player and every team needs one. You saw Saka missing for Arsenal on the weekend and they get slapped up by Bournemouth. For those people who say one player doesn't make a team, we're seeing it with Palace, we're seeing it with Spurs, and we're seeing it with Arsenal. One great player can change the fortunes of the team. So we've got Son back. I think Solanke has been a breath of fresh air. Maybe not getting the goals. The one thing I don't understand about the Postecoglou system is we've got a target man that we just don't target. They are not looking to feed Solanke the ball, but he is doing the dog's work in terms of pressing the defence, elbowing, pushing people in their face. And he does it really, really well. I just hope that they somehow find a way to start feeding him the ball and him getting some goals, because I think he deserves it for the amount of work he puts in. Brennan Johnson, purple patch. Arsenal fans hate me for saying this, but he's up there with Saka this season so far in terms of GA 6 and 7. So you just got to put some respect on his name. And then we've got a choice. Kulusevski has been our best midfielder. That's a revelation. That's a change. Tottenham fans talk about the lack of change. Well, he's no longer, this time last season, Kulusevski played right wing against Palace. Now he's going to play in the 8. So that is an adaptation. I want to see Basuma start over Bentancur for this game. And I think maybe we do start with Madders. And if Madders is struggling, quickly get Pape Sarr in, because one thing I know about the Palace team, you are fluid and you are full of pace. Pace all over the shop. One of the fastest teams in the Prem, in my opinion. So we need legs, and Madders doesn't give us legs. And it's the legs that Pape Sarr brought to us on the weekend that helped us to get it. And then I think our back line is good. Porro just sleeps a little bit. But if he concentrates, Porro's decent. Romero, Van de Ven, Udogie, they're all there. And Vicario's a decent player. Look, notoriously, these games are 1-0. Under Hodgson, I'd be telling you this is a 1-0 at Selhurst. I hate going there. And it's always a last-minute goal, 89th minute, 88th minute. You're biting your fingernails until you no longer have any hands left. But if Glasner plays his ball, you could be in for a lamping this weekend. It could be 3 or 4 for Spurs.
Yeah, I look. My head says 2-0 Spurs. My heart says we have a bit of we have an absolute blinder and we nick it 1-0. But so look, what I want to happen is that we have that game that we had against Liverpool. We ride our luck. Our defence has an absolute blinder. We keep you out, but we cause you enough problems to create a few chances, and we nick a goal and win it 1-0. That's what I want to happen. Obviously,
you got Artillero saying, "Come on, Alan, mate. He's not having it here." He's saying, "Come on, Alan." He wants you to have more chest. So you're saying you hope for your heart is.
I've got to be realistic. My hope is, and it's possible that we can do that. But I'll be honest with you. If you want. If I was a betting man, I'm going to bet on a 2-0 win to Spurs. I have to be realistic. But what I want to happen is, and I think we're capable of it. I think we're capable if things fall into place and it comes together and we get that little bit of luck and we get that performance. I think we're capable of nicking it. But I can't see us. We won't hammer you. We could nick it 1-0, but I think we're more likely to lose.
Yeah, my friend D gave me the worst possible nightmare scenario, which is a 92-minute winner from Nketiah. If that happens, apart from me breaking my laptop and needing a replacement, I might have to smash a few things, to be honest, if that was to happen. Look, I think
I'm taking that all day, Dej. I'm loving that.
I hope Tottenham win. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think 2-0 is very flattering. I think you guys are hurting from Monday. I'm going to want to pull in a performance in front of your crowd. But Tottenham need to win. If Postecoglou is who I think he is, he has to get the 3 points. Dare I say, I'd even take a draw. But if we lose to you on the weekend, I'd be asking for his head. Because for me, I just think that Slot has shown us that if you're really a top manager, you can hit the ground running. And I know Slot has been given a fantastic foundation, and most managers have to come in and build a mess, and he actually inherited a fantastic team. My thing is, if Postecoglou came out and said he's going to win something this season, he always wins something in his second season. So the pressure has come from him, not me. So I'm expecting us to win. We need the win, and if we can do that, that will be perfect. That's all. So
well, look. Listen, I think there's a big performance in Palace around the corner, and I wish I think it's possible it could happen Saturday, and I want it to happen as soon as possible. I just worry slightly. The second half on Monday, we looked like we'd lost all confidence and we were running out of ideas, and that's my fear at the moment, if I'm brutally honest. Yeah. But I like him as a manager, and if he can get them playing on Saturday and he can work Postecoglou out, because he's smart, Glasner, I still think we're in with a shout. We might just nick it, but I think you are going to win it.
Yeah. Well, Alan, look, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming through. It was literally a year ago today or this week or whatever when we had the last conversation. It's a lovely conversation. I do hope, after this game, that Glasner gets it right, because I think you're a quality team and we need teams like Crystal Palace in the league slapping up the big boys. I just can't.
I hope so. I hope so. And I wouldn't mind someone like Potter. Look, I want him to stay because I like him. I don't really want Moyes, although you've got to give respect to what Moyes achieved. But I don't like his style of football. But Potter, I'd be interested by. I don't think Southgate. I don't know. I don't think he'll cut it in the Premier League, if I'm honest. No. So I want Glasner. I want Glasner to do well, and I want it to start on Saturday. I do want it to start on Saturday, but we'll see.
Yeah, now big up. And big up, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, locked on. We will see. But the most important thing, because I have to do it, Artilero's favourite, is if Arsenal lose to Liverpool as I've predicted, and Tottenham does what me and Alan think they're going to do, then we're literally 1 point behind. Let that sink in, Arsenal fans. All you Arsenal fans who've been shaking your bum violently for your club, we would be 1 point behind you. Jay Greens always says football is a humbler. I bloody agree. And on that note, we are out. Thank you and have a good day.